There it is. There's a notification. Did you feel that notification? You should. It means Snow the Goalie's live. We had people have been waiting in the chat here for a little bit. Well, let's go here. I like this. Can we get a poll guessing what octave Russ is going to do the intro today from Scott? Over under for the Bundy bomb today from Ed. Let's see. Justin Kent says 17 minutes 38 seconds. Scott Walker 4 minutes and 52 seconds. Going long today. I think it'll be 24:45. Bundy, don't let this affect you, by the way. All right.
Yeah, it's like I keep getting the odds put on me, and it's like, I can't be impacted by that. It's like
it just has to flow.
It's like knowing if you're a favorite, like on the DraftKings or whatever. If you're a team, a basketball hockey team before the game, you're thinking, well, we should be good tonight, guys. We're minus 190.
Yeah. Guys, I was feeling really good about this game, but I just saw that BetMGM changed to we're now only a minus 140 favorite. Line is indicating that things aren't trending our direction. I love this question. How much to kick Russ off the show? You can't. Sorry about you, Ted. Sorry about you, pal.
You can't.
There was another thing here, and now you can dispel this rumor. Justin thinks that we were late because I was getting a Starbucks pumpkin spice latte. Was not. We're in pumpkin spice season, though, right? Didn't you say September 1st is okay for pumpkin spice, right?
September 1st. Anything before that is illegal.
Okay.
That's my rule with the pumpkin spice. You can't pull the pumpkin spice out like July 28th. It just doesn't go.
Oh, no, that's nasty. Can't do that.
Yeah.
Can't do that. I do have my La Colombe coffee here. They don't sponsor us. They should, but I
go with these little Celsius here, Russ. They kind of wake me up. No coffee breath. So somebody turned me on to them. No sugar instead of the Red Bull.
Somebody turned you on. Good for you.
Turn me on to these, I said.
Oh, okay.
Good to see you're out of jail again. A couple
hey,
days
you know what? Eu falo pouco português, but no, I'm glad it's over. I'm glad they found the guy in a pile of logs. That was great. Border Patrol.
And that was kind of all around you, right? Like that was your neck of the woods, right? So I mean, listen, I don't care. It's we joke about it. I know we laugh because the guy was 5 feet and like they said, 120 pounds. But that was kind of all around your neighborhood, and it's got to be an uneasy feeling. Right? I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
Just have somebody running around that stabbed his girlfriend 50 times or whatever
in front of her 4-year-old and 7-year-old. You're like, that's not like that's a very ridiculous, over the top crime. When they started shutting down our kids' school, that was when it was like, all right, I know that it's over there, but it's close enough that it can affect us. So it was a few really stressful days here, and then eventually having to tell our kids like what was going on, and like they kind of got it. But yeah, it wasn't fun. I'm glad that they got him. So good job to everybody involved in that. Before we get started, CMAC, I'm hearing rumors people in surrounding media types want to take out Snow the Goalie because of Russ. Is this true? People want to swing at the king. If you come at the Kings, you best not miss.
I haven't heard that one yet, Russ, but I always say, listen, if you're ruffling feathers and somebody wants you out of there, that means you're doing your job, buddy. That's all it means.
We have people checking in from Indiana.
Nice.
We have people checking in from Franklin County. I want to know where everybody else is coming in from.
I have a daughter that lives in Indiana. How about that? What are the odds of that?
How about that? Happy Friday, Barry, sorry I got caught in that manhunt, Russ. I don't know if you meant because I'm Cavalcante or because I just was close to it, but either way is fine. Hey, Slaypool, happy belated birthday. Thanks for checking in with us. We did this episode for you. We found out just now that it's,
I will say, though, the Eagles game last night, and the Eagles roll off another one 2-0. Kind of a shaky, not a perfect start, eh, Russ? It's been like anything short of, like, it's kind of been a little bit ugly. But how about the guy, though, with the Eagles jersey, with the Cavalcante jersey last night at the Eagles game?
I mean, come on.
Only in Philly, man. Only in Philly.
By the way, I don't know if you saw this. We're going to get the show started here in a few seconds, but I don't know if you saw this video. It was a TikTok going around. There's like a pumpkin swirl frozen drink or something at Dunkin' Donuts, and it's got 185 grams of sugar, which is like 45 teaspoons of sugar, something absurd like that is what the video was. And it's like, it's more than, a dozen donuts, and it was just crazy. And there's no pumpkin in it. It's just flavors.
Wow.
So yeah, not great. We got a question here about torts that we'll have to get to. I like that. We'll come back to that one. Tuning in during work. Can't listen, but wanted to support. Have a great show. Can't wait to listen later. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate that. As always. And then, here we go. Look at this. Tampa, Florida. Glen Olden, PA. Boyertown, PA. Pittsburgh. Just outside of Pittsburgh, unfortunately. Harrisburg. Kutztown. Tennessee. How about that? Not bad.
We're well repped again, as we always are every week. And we thank our fans because they do come out in droves. We were going to do this earlier. Sorry, Anthony's not here today.
He's not.
Gave him the week off.
The handsome quotient has actually increased with him not on the show. But no, I'm just kidding. We know there are certain ladies who definitely have an eye for Anthony SanFilippo. All right. He only has eyes for one woman.
Yeah.
But there are other women who have eyes for Anthony SanFilippo. And men, let's not be, exclusive here. He's got a lot of charisma. He is the thespian, right?
He's only human.
Director extraordinaire. He's only human.
He's only human.
So I thought that we should come up with a name for like when you and I do the show together. I do want to let people know as we get closer to, and here we go. Here's some more. Marlton, Central Florida, Detroit, Sarasota. I want to point out to people that we are getting very close to coming up with, as the season hits, what the schedule for the show is going to be. I think that the three of us are going to designate a time during the week to actually do the show consistently. We're working on that. We have some things in the works. We said last week, there's stuff in the works. There's not. There is. There's not. We may or may not have gotten a few antennas up on that episode, but what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that like if we said we had exciting stuff coming before, I think it pales in comparison to what is in store and what is coming down the pike for our Snow The Goalie.
Don't you go overhyping stuff. Don't you dare.
I'm gonna. You know what, right? Russ, you hyped up that Dan Hilford interview, and rightly so. That was the biggest guest that we'd had in terms of his stature and his play in the city and his coming into the sporting scene. Someone who's already been there, but it's been a big player. So, but I will say this: I think what we have coming down the pike is the most significant thing that I've seen in terms of the podcast world and that kind of stuff. And I'm jacked about it. Can't say anything really yet, but we're thinking it might be coming pretty soon.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really cool.
Yep.
Assuming things go through the way that we expect them to, I think that people are really going to enjoy some of the stuff that we have going on this year. And there's even some stuff that you and I haven't talked about that Anthony and I have that's like a different level of our coverage. This has been a very weird summer, and the people who join us ahead of time are typically like very big fans of the show. So I just want to like give these people at least a little bit of that idea that like this summer has just been incredibly stressful with this show, figuring out what we were going to do with it and how we were going to expand our coverage and monetize it and all that. And I hate when things are just kind of like floating out there in the ether. I love just tying up loose ends on things. And so we're finally at that point. I think we're about to like tie up the last couple of loose ends and just be like good to go. So very excited. Let's get into the show, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it, Russ.
Here we go. Oh, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Snow The Goalie, the only Flyers podcast, the People's Podcast, the Players Podcast, Prognosticators Podcast, Pedialyte Podcast, Pampers Podcast, they went and caught the young Brazilian guy podcast. That's good. That's good. No more lockdowns. Everything's great. I'm Russ Joy at Joy on Broad, joined by the Butte, the number one Butte on the show. And that, of course, is Chris Therien. Bundy, find him on Twitter at CTherien6. How are you doing? You absolute delight.
You know what? I'm thrilled to be here today, Russ. It's, you know what? It's been a really great week. Hockey's pretty much here. Camp opens next Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So I know that I'll be over at the Wells Fargo Center and the skate zone as well, covering camp. And as we just said, we'll have. If you think you like seeing us, I have a feeling you're going to be seeing a whole lot of us. So, and again, we'll be. That's an announcement. Yeah, you're gonna. We have some from where I am. If Russ thought the Hilferty interview was the most exciting thing we had in terms of an interview, I agree. But I think this is bigger than the Hilferty news, and it'll be coming to you probably in the next few days,
next week or two. Yeah, I would say probably in the next week or so.
Yep.
I was trying to come up with a name. We were talking about this on the YouTube exclusive thing before we went live with the show. And the people who are in the podcast feed, who we greatly appreciate very much. We do. All the people on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and not Stitcher anymore, but Pandora and Amazon Music and Google Podcasts and the like. You know, they miss out on a little bit of the banter ahead of time. Today it was 9 minutes worth of banter. One of the things that we talked about is like coming up with a name for when it's just me and you doing the show. And I think Scott Walker, who's watching the show live, came up with a great one. The Beaut and the Beast. Now, who's who? You know, that's up to you. But I think Bundy's the Beaut.
I'm good with either one, Russ. Actually, I'm fine with it. Okay. I'm comfortable in my skin now at this point in my life, man. So it's all good. It's all good.
There's a lot to get into this week. The Flyers rookie camp began this week. There are some familiar faces on the ice. You've got Sean Couturier back. You have Cam Atkinson back. You have Travis Konechny was back on the ice. Wade Allison was back on the ice. So there are a number of familiar faces. And then, of course, there are the guys that are, you know, potentially trying to make a case to get a look either, you know, for the regular season or perhaps to put themselves on the radar in case there's an injury and there could be a call up down the line. I just wanted to know from your vantage point, from your years playing, how important is a rookie camp for the players who are invited to it? Like just in terms of getting themselves on that radar with the coaching staff.
Yeah, I really think they probably, you know, in terms of player assessment, they're going to look at the players and they know who those players are coming in terms of what they can bring to the table. So I don't really think it's a matter of moving someone to the front of the line. You might open someone's eyes. You might see someone's compete level in a little different light than maybe you had before. There are guys. I mean, there's people that change. They get to different levels or stages in their hockey career, and they might be better at a certain level that they were at another one when there's more synchronicity between the players. There's some players, believe it or not, that were actually bad minor league players, but were better at the NHL because there was more structure. That's happened to a lot of players over the years. But I just think with young rookies right now, it's an opportunity for them to show a new regime, certainly the leadership and the management side, you know, who they are, what they're all about. Most of them will not matter to John Tortorella and his staff. They're just too young. They're going to go back to junior. They're going to be in the minors. So, but in terms of being able to just gauge who they are and what they bring to the table, certainly from their energy level and their competitiveness, I think that's what's good about rookie camp. Yeah. And you might find a diamond in the rough that you can maybe bring along a little faster. You believe me, when kids are young, you can develop a lot, both body-wise and mentally, even through the course of a summer. So I think that's kind of important to take a look at. You know, I mean, I always tell people, you know, people think their kids are, you know, little Johnny is a superstar in hockey or football at 15, but they never counted the other little Johnny was going to grow 4 inches and put on 50 pounds. You know, and didn't lose a step. So I always tell people that with football, but rookie camp's just a really good gauge, I think, to see what people's abilities are, their skill level. But for me, more importantly, to see what kind of level of competitiveness they have moving into the future. Because, you know, if they have that at 18 or 19 years old, they're certainly going to have that as they get older too. So that's an important one for me.
Hey, by the way, I want people who are watching on the live stream, do us a favor, do the thing that we usually say every week. If you're watching on YouTube right now, go down below the video, hit the thumbs up. Thumbs up helps us get into the YouTube algorithm, has it show up to more Flyers fans. So if you don't mind, that would be swell. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SnowTheGoalie. We're up to 1,800 subscribers. We built this account, 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So that's not too bad. We obviously want to get to 2,000 or more by the time the season starts. We have a super chat in here, Bundy, that I think we should get to as we continue to go back and forth. Justin Kent says Bundy is the beauty and the beast, so it's beauty and the beast plus Russ. Thanks, guys, for distracting me from my remote work today. That's what we're here for. You know,
that's what we want to do, right?
We're here. Like, it's not just the good looks and the boyish charm that we both bring to the table. It's to make sure that we keep you distracted from your work. All right. So rookie camp is important. The actual training camp starts next week. Now, from your perspective, seeing guys like Atkinson, who didn't play last year, Couturier, who we've talked about at length at this point, about his injury issues, seeing those guys back on the ice at rookie camp, you know, at least working out around the team, is that more of a trying to prove to themselves that they can get themselves back into conditioning where they need to be? Or do you view that as like, all right, there's not going to be a captain this year. Those are two guys that Tortorella is probably going to lean on to be leaders, and they're kind of setting the tone for the young guys at rookie camp.
Russ, this one's probably multifaceted because I'm really easy to put myself in their position from being, like, you know, injured. I didn't have a situation where I ever missed an entire year like that, or Coots 2, Atkinson 1. But the one thing I'm able to think of is, you know, going into that camp healthy, you know, as if I was those guys, I do the same thing. I would want to be out on the ice with the rookies. It doesn't matter if you think that you're ahead of them and you've already been in the league 10 years or whatever it is. It's still competition. You're still skating with young guys with fresh legs. And yeah, you are showing your coaches. I mean, I think you have to, with a guy like Coots, like, I know that you can look back and say, you know, what kind of a career he's had. And he's had a really good one here. He's an honest player. You know what you're going to get from him. But from the same standpoint, like, John Tortorella doesn't know him. You know, he hasn't played for him. He hasn't seen the recuperated version of Sean Couturier. You know, is he healthy? How's he feeling? I'll notice right away if he's missing a step or two, because I've seen him his whole career. There's not a lot of people that can say that. So, you know, those are opportunities for them to look at guys, but also I think for those guys to really get up to snuff on some of the drills. Like, you can't really recreate drills just doing them with the guys on the ice, you know, because it's it's just a step lazier, you know, when you're lining up with the players to take your shooting drills. But if you line up with coaches on the ice in an organized type of setting, then you're going to push a little bit harder. And veterans are not, you know, I mean, these guys to me still have a lot to prove. You know, just because you're out for a year and you're veterans means nothing. It just means you're another body that's under contract that you have to prove again that you belong. And coming off an injury is a tough thing. So they have work to do. But I do admire the fact that they're certainly out there jumping the shark and trying to make a difference. And I think that that's an important thing to see, especially from veteran guys. And it sets a tone and a leadership message down the puck too, you know, letting everyone else know, like, hey, I don't know what we're going to have this year in terms of a team, guys, but we're going to certainly change the culture. We're going to continue changing the culture. And that's an important part of this. So they're out there. It's meaningless, to be honest with you, that they are out there, but it's not in a sense that they're getting their feet under them and getting some timing drills ready for the main camp, which will start next week.
You know, I've always looked at camp as the ultimate way to figure out where your team is at when you're a bubble team. Like, sometimes when you look at a camp early on, you get a feel for if the guys really do believe in the squad they have. And we know what this team is, right? Last year, and I will come back to this a million times, and you sent me a message about something that happened last week, right? There was a guy who ran into you and was like all excited and was like, "Oh, listen to you on Snow The Goalie, love the show." But like, talking about how we pretty much outlined last year, around this time last year, exactly how last season was going to go up through like April, right? We pretty much nailed the hell out of it. And this isn't complicated. We know what this team is, barring there being, 6 or 7 young players taking 5 or 6 steps forward. They're not going to be a bubble playoff team. So this camp actually feels a lot different from what I think most fans are used to seeing in entering a Flyers camp, because whether you believed in the past that the team was good enough to make the playoffs, the organization told you that you should expect them to make the playoffs or be in playoff contention. Last year, you and I and Anthony, we looked at it. We said, team's not good. They will not make the playoffs. They'll be a bottom 5, bottom 10 team. Doesn't matter if Chuck Fletcher says that they're, trying to make the postseason. Does not matter. They suck. This year, by contrast, the organization has told the fans, it ain't going to be this year, guys. You want to win a Stanley Cup every year? It ain't this year. But there's at least an understanding. There's a cohesive vision, I think, between what the fans expect and what the organization's selling. So what's something that you're looking for going into next week's camp that people should have an eye out for, knowing that it's not a good team?
Well, I want to say it's not a good team. And one thing I will say, I spoke to Jonesy the other day, a couple days ago, and we talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about what I thought the team would look like. He had what he thought was a little bit of his vision as well of what he thought this season would look like. And again, the sell you get, and it's a real one. I do the same thing is, well, we're going to work, and we're going to work really, really hard, and we're going to get that back. So that again is the messaging that we're going to get until the Mishkovs and the Cutter Gauthiers and the high draft picks and the good free agents start flipping over and becoming part of the wave of the future. So, again, there's going to be what I'm looking for this year is who's really going to take a stride into the future. Is Konechny going to is he going to really have another good year? Are they going to try to move him at the deadline? How's Couturier and Atkinson? How are they going to look? What is his defense going to look like? That's the biggest question. Jonesy said one of the things I think he's mentioned is that we want to have a really, really good defense. Everybody wants to have a good defense. Everybody wants to have someone who can defend, can move the puck. And I just don't know how they're situated for that right this minute. But those are also, again, I know Sanheim went through a lot in the offseason, in terms of them trying to move him to St. Louis. But, if I'm him this year, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Let me try to go out and just do the job that I can. And, let me try to.
Hold on. There it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Bundy bomb. I had that queued up. Now, if I remember correctly, we did 9 minutes pre-show going live. So that takes us to about 12 minutes and 40-ish seconds. So I don't know who hit on the over and who hit on the under. We can go back in the comments on the live show. But the first Bundy bomb. All right, go ahead.
So, and I want to see Sanheim in, like I said, F it. Just take the bull. Like if he's a good player, if you're a good player and you can make a difference, go take the bull by the horns, make a difference, and prove them wrong. There's nothing I love seeing more than a player shove it up a coach's rear end, or an organization's rear end, because that's the competitive and character that a guy should have all the time. If they're paying you that kind of money and everybody's like, man, he shouldn't be making that kind of money, go prove them wrong. Prove that you are worth that. So there's a lot of little things I'm excited about. The goaltending situations is going to be an interesting one again. Carter Hart is still, again, is he going to take another step this year? What's it going to look like? Is he going to see 40 shots a night against? There's a lot of little things that are part of it. The one thing that is there again, though, is Torts is again going to elevate the team. They may win a game or two that you don't want them to win because of the high draft picks. But if you're going to do that, last year would have been the year to do that for Connor Bedard. If you're going to tank, you had to tank. Last year was your year to do it. So again, I don't ever like coaching like that. And I don't ever want to have a philosophy that you're going to be down because you're going to tell people to be down and you're going to, we're just not there yet. And, that's the wrong kind of messaging. So from that standpoint, like even Jonesy says, we're going to work, we're going to be competitive. You have to have those things installed in the foundation of your team before you get the talent that comes in and learns that too. So it's a tough. Listen, where the Flyers are at right now, it's not an easy place to be. It really isn't. You've told your fans in the last few months we are rebuilding. There is some optimism, but at the same time, it comes more with hope right now from everybody saying, "Geez, we hope we have a better year. We hope things go good."
Yeah.
But really, the only thing that's going to aid and ail that is time and getting more players and turning the roster over and bringing in new people over time. So that's what it is. And, there's a lot of things that are exciting to look for in camp this year. There's also things that are continued concern for me. Some of them being injuries, but that's all part and parcel. That's part of what goes on in the course of the hockey season. But excited to start. But again, optimistic, but still some skepticism in terms of what everything is. And I think there's supposed to be skepticism in a rebuild. It's not supposed to be pretty.
Yeah, the obviously one of the things that stands out, and we don't want to like keep going back to this, but like it is a thing. Nobody has any idea what the goalie situation is going to be. We have no idea what this is going to look like throughout the season, right? The hockey cannon investigation still looming, right?
Yeah,
There
I've heard
were
enough of
multiple
that, to be honest with you. Like, it's
there
getting old.
yeah, well there were multiple reports that were put out by the Athletic about contacting Bill Daly, the deputy commissioner, about can we expect something? Can we expect there to be news or an update? Because if you remember back around the Stanley Cup, that was when the word came out that like, hey, we're getting close to this report coming out. Then around the draft, we're getting close to the report coming out. And now here we are, we're a week away from camp opening, and there's still no word. It was actually kind of in a way, it felt like, oh well, no shit, this is gonna happen. When the NHL last week, going into week 1 of the NFL season, there was the Carter Hart and a few other players who were part of that Hockey Canada team. They switched their accounts to private on Instagram, and that got a bunch of people's antenna up. Like, does that mean something? Now, there were a bunch of people who didn't understand what that means. So just really quick, if you make a social media account private, that's Twitter, that's Instagram, whatever, if you're already following the person, you're still going to see everything unless they block you from seeing it. What it really does is prevent anybody new from following you. So like if there were, I don't know, and again, this is not a report on anything. If there were something not great to come out about you in the news, it would prevent people in theory from being able to like go in, follow your account, and try to like dig up dirt, right? Not saying that's what's happening here, but just to be clear. So like a lot of people were like, well, I can still see everything. It's like, well, you were following him already. But the thought was, oh man, like all these guys are going private the Friday going into the NFL week 1. What a time to drop that report, because it would obviously not make, many A block on the sports shows either locally or nationally when you have the NFL season kicking up. It didn't happen. We still don't know. No one still has any idea. Ivan Fedotov, by the way, continues to play in the KHL, despite the fact that the IIHF gave a ruling that he cannot play. They said F that. Obviously, it didn't matter because he's still playing. The Russian Federation does not care. The KHL does not care. All right. You're looking at a situation here where, like, all right, you want to look for a player to keep an eye on? It's Sam Ersson, right? Because there's your guy who enters the season as the backup, as somebody that Tortorella was effusive in his praise of a year ago, and somebody who, like, whether it's by trade, if Carter Hart ends up getting traded, if it's a much worse scenario where Carter Hart's unavailable, Ersson could get moved into that starting role. So, like, that's a guy that you keep an eye on. Is anybody going to get excited about, like, a Felix Sandstrom? No. So, like, you look and you go, all right, that's one guy that we can look at. To your point from before, Travis Sanheim is a guy that, like, I expect a lot from this year because he had about as bad of a year as I think he's ever had in the league. And as a guy who, like, previously had been somebody that you go, all right, this guy can give you some decent power play, minutes on the second unit. This is a guy who can, kill some penalties. This is a guy who, like, has decent skill in the offensive zone. Like, you think to yourself, all right, like, he should be somebody that you can do something with. Is he worth what Chuck Fletcher signed him to? No, not at all. But, he can now go out, hopefully this year, knowing that the team isn't very good, and he can say, I'm going to go back to playing the way that I play. And you hope that Tortorella, as, this experienced coach, is going to be able to figure out how to maximize the guy, because you sure as hell can't have that kind of a big salary guy not playing any kind of a meaningful role on this team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I look at some of the stuff here. I mean, it's some of the players they lost. Listen, you get paid when you get paid like that. It comes with a lot of encompassing things, and it's sometimes there's nothing you can do except just go out and play. Provorov was moved out of here because they wanted him out of here. I mean, there's been enough smoke and fire around everything that's gone on. Same with Hayes. Yeah, good guys. Yeah, good guys. But again, there's somebody obviously at the top felt that they needed to move some bodies and personalities for the betterment of the group. and these things happen. So, but again, what's their most glaring thing when I look at it right now on paper? It's defense. It's a defense of the team. I mean, they have York is, he's a smaller sized stature defenseman. What's he going to be? And I like him. I want to see more speed at him. I want to see him play the game faster. But really, the problem is a guy like it's not a problem, but there's going to be a lot to fall on Sanheim this year, because he is making that kind of money. You can't go get 2 for that price of 1 with that salary. Yep. And so until, he understands that that's the way it is and he's going to have to raise the level of his game, he'll be scrutinized for that. And that's just the way it goes. I mean, that is the way it goes.
Hey, here's a good sign. Solar Warden says, according to my franchise sim in NHL, Sanheim does in fact take that jump and notches over 40 points and is a plus player. Well, that's great. Solar Warden, God bless you. That's great. And if you don't believe
why did he have to put that little LOL on the end, though?
I don't know. I guess Solar Warden.
If you take the LOL off, it looks good. If you put the LOL on, it looks like you're saying that my AI NHL franchise simulator said he's going to have a great year and get 40 points.
I don't know. Maybe they were, they're kind of leaning into the idea that the game is perhaps wrong.
I'm actually hoping that is absolutely what happens. I'd love to see him get more points than that. He will probably get some power play time this year.
Yeah. So here's something that I think we can kind of get to as well. Now is more about building the culture than it is stacking up wins, says Zach Weeks. So this idea of culture, towards building the culture, right? There are 2 things that go hand in hand with that. One of them is tradition, right? Can we go the tradition route here, Bundy? Because there's something that the Flyers have now leaned into in terms of their tradition. They've made a change to what people are going to see this year on the ice at Wells Fargo Center, and that is this. So gone is the single Flyers logo split by the red line. Nay. We're back to what Ed Snyder wanted, a double logo. Now, for those who forgot, the change to go to the one big logo divided by the red line, that started in 2019-2020. As I was saying to Bundy on the phone earlier, the 1920 season, meaning 2019, 2020, not 1920, they've gone back to the double logo. Some people don't care. Some people are very excited. I think it's kind of cool.
I love it.
Where do you land?
I absolutely love it. You know what? And it's one of those things where the last regime that's in here, they change some things and new regimes do that. But when you look at the mess that was the other logo with the line through it, it did it no justice. This is clean. It's perfect. As Justin Kint said, beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Look at how shiny that is. And that to me, I like it because you're looking at both ends. You can see that Flyer logo around something that's got like a slash red line through it. So I absolutely love the double logo. I know, I mean, is it kind of crazy that we're at the point talking about logos on ice, but these are the things that are meaningful to a lot of people. These are the things that we talked about, the history of the team, the things that have mattered here for a long, long time, win or lose. And that is one of them. And that is a really, really cool look, clean look again. And I like that you can see from both ends. You can see the logo is clean. It is pretty cool. It looks much, much better than the single logo. I did not like that.
If you're watching over on YouTube, we've just added the poll. Which logo do you prefer on the ice? The single logo or the double logo?
Yeah, Zillow 092. It seems so minuscule and stupid, but it does matter. It does. This is a purist town. This is like for hockey is more culty in its little innuendos and small things for Flyers fans than I've ever seen. And I know that. I've known that forever. And so that's what's pretty cool about it is that they do care about little things like that, especially the hardcore fans of this team. And that's what makes it really, really it's a little thing, but it's a little thing that matters to people that want to come down to the building or have had passion for this team for 60 years.
We'll have to pass this along to the Flyers organization, but I know that, it's a very polarized fan base, very polarized world in which we live, Bundy. But so far, there are 32 votes on that poll, and it is unanimous. The double logo is what wins. We'll leave that up there for the rest of the episode. I just want to see. But we're up to 32 votes, unanimous right now. So that's certainly something. We mentioned culture. We mentioned tradition. I have to ask you about something that happened in the hockey world that's not actually related to the Flyers. But before we get there, because it's kind of like a down story, let's get to one other good thing that has to do with the Flyers. Mark Recchi is going to be inducted into the Flyers Hall of Fame. So I can tell you that, like, as a kid, I loved watching Mark Recchi play. I was honestly a little bit surprised that he hadn't been inducted to this point. Your thoughts on his induction coming this year?
So I'll tell you what happened. And well, first of all, one of my favorite teammates of all time. Right? Just a great guy. Still somebody that I just pick up the phone and call. Just an awesome person, and I couldn't be happier for him. So I think what happened with Mark Recchi was when it looked like his career was maybe dying down, he ended up getting plucked up by, was it Pittsburgh, and then he went to Carolina, and he won another cup with Carolina. So what happened was when Rex first retired, he said, hey, listen, when I retire, I want to get put into the Hall of Fame here with the Flyers. I want to go in as a Flyer. And this is true. He's telling everybody that. So what happened was with Rex is his career just kept getting extended. He kept wanting to play, and then he went to Boston. And then he started compiling these a crazy amount of games played, wins another cup in Boston as a legendary kind of elder statesman player. And what happened in a lot of ways, I don't say the Flyers got left behind, but they kind of got left behind because he ends up winning another cup in Carolina, another one in Boston. And he never won anything in terms of a Stanley Cup in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Carolina, and Boston. And so it's just taken a little bit of time past his retirement in his Hall of Fame to salute a guy that I believe still has the most points in a single season. If I'm not mistaken, I'm going off the cuff. I'm not looking at anything. Single season by any Flyer player. One of the great guys I've played with, a great person, and really, really excited about his night that night. And I'll be there with a full cheering section for him. He deserves it.
It is really cool. It's really cool to see him get that honor.
Yeah.
I don't know. I look back at that time, and you are right. It was the 1992-93 season. He had 123 points. It's just crazy to think back to that team, especially. And I'm going to make you feel really bad, so get ready for it. So there was, I'm trying to think. I had a poster in my room as a kid, and it was Primo, Recchi, Leclerc, and Roenick. And I want to say it was like when I was in middle school. I don't make you feel great. But I look back at those teams, and I just think of like what I wish could have been. I loved watching those teams. And I don't know what it was. It always felt like Recchi was underrated. Despite the fact that he was so good, it never felt like in the moment he got the credit that I thought he kind of deserved. And like, I don't know if it's because people got soured on him a little bit because of the stint with Pittsburgh and with Boston, and like people don't necessarily think of Recchi in the same way as like being an all-time Flyer. Like there are people who seem to like associate him with other teams because he won cups elsewhere. But like, I don't know. I want to know from the people in the comments, like, where are you in terms of like where you think about Mark Recchi? Because again, he goes down as like one of my favorite players from the middle school years that like I got to watch play. I want to know if other people have that same thought, that like you don't necessarily associate him as much as a Flyer, or do you? And it just so happens that he went to other teams and won cups because we can't have nice things here. I think it's really cool. We'll certainly have to do something. We'll have to have
I'll
him
have him on for sure. We'll have him on the show for sure, and he will gladly come on. That's just a phone call. That's not easy. So, I mean, just a great guy, and congrats to my great friend Mark Recchi and teammate too. Somebody keeps reminding me about the 2000 year. Fuck, I hate seeing that. That was a really, there it is right there. I fucking, if you know what, dude, it's one of those things, man. If I got a time machine, there is one fucking thing I do. If I go back in a time machine, I go right back to the end of Game 4, and I change everything. I give them a glimpse into what will happen. Oh, fuck. That would be, someone would say, what would you do in one time machine moment? I would go back to after Game 4 of the Devils series in 2000.
All right, let me peel back your trauma.
You guys can do the rest of the work in your brain on that one. And you know what, too? Nobody else will say it, but every fucking guy I played with in 2000 would jump right on the same boat with me and say, you know what, you're right, Bundy. Let's show the glimpse of what happens, because that team easily should have won.
That was bringing back a certain player.
Doesn't even at this point doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Well, I was gonna peel the onion back with you, but I can tell we've hit a bad.
I can't stand hearing that 2097. We go to the finals. It wasn't even near as close as 2000.
Yeah.
Anyway, Russ.
All right. I just wanted to let people have a moment. And it's funny because so often I think I don't know if it's a modern player thing in a lot of these leagues, but there are times where you listen to the way that players react after losses, and you kind of go man, the idea of laughing and yucking it up with the opposition, after you get eliminated from the playoffs. And as a fan, you sit back and you go, that's kind of bullshit. I want to see these guys be upset that they lost. And again, that doesn't mean that it's uniform for everybody. It's not something that happens with every player. But here we are 23 years later, and the pain and the agony and the what could have been is still very much on your sleeve. So if nothing else, the people who are watching and listening to the show know that there's an authentic disdain for what happened that year. Here we go. Let's get some people's thoughts from there. Zilla says, when I was in high school, I didn't like him because he was traded away for my favorite all-time player, Tocchet. But as time went on, I saw how amazing a person and player he was. Loved him. Great flyer. About Recchi. Let's see. Here's a question that's off topic. Why isn't Reggie Leach in the Hockey Hall of Fame?
Yeah, that's another interesting one, right? There's a lot. The Hall of Fame stuff is really odd. I don't even want to get into it. We need to save it for a whole show because the Hall of Fame to me is losing its cred. And I'll just say it. I know there's people on there that I know, but if you're not going to have Jeremy Roenick in the fucking Hall of Fame, then you shouldn't have a Hall of Fame. It's an embarrassment. I don't care what he did or what he said or whatever. I mean, people do dumb shit all the time. I've been the king of it. But what I will say is that don't ostracize players because of whatever happened after hockey. Roenick should be in the Hall of Fame. And if you're not, then your Hall of Fame isn't real. It isn't. It's a fake Hall of Fame.
I mean, that kind of thing, that it's not just this sport too, but
it's a lot of it's all political. It's I said that Jeremy
either
Roenick
the player was good enough or the player wasn't good enough, and hockey doesn't have the same kind of issues with PEDs that baseball had. Right. So if the guy was good enough, if he said stuff that was offensive or misogynistic or whatever, you can think that the guy's a shit human being. Right. You're certainly entitled to think that. But if they were a good enough player on the ice, the last I checked, that's what the Hall of Fame is supposed to be. So
the Hall of Fame couldn't wait last year to get the Sedins in and do their little Swedish, meatball trio. Great players. I love them. They were great players. I played against the Sedins. Believe me, they weren't that hard to play against. They were really, really good players, really skilled power play guys. But you know what? They could, and everybody knew it. Johnny Leclerc would joke with me, watch what they do next year. They're going to make sure they put in the little Swedish train of guys are going to go in. It's going to be this feel good, and they're going to leave fucking JR off the ballot again. Someone else mentioned McGillney. How is McGillney not in the Hall of Fame?
Yep.
It's pathetic. It's actually at a point of an embarrassment. Hall of Fame, I didn't mean to come at you today. Get fucking real. Start doing your work. Put the politics behind you and start doing stuff that's meaningful and that fans care about, all right? Nobody cares about all of the political aspirations. Oh, he's a nice guy. You know what? Jeremy Roenick's a nice guy too. He is, believe it or not. He's a character. He's a character. And you know what? There says something about characters. You know the problem we hear all the time about players in the NHL? Oh, we don't know who they are because they have helmets on. We'd love to see what's behind the mask. Well, somebody showed you what's behind the mask, and what happens? He gets kicked in the ass for it. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. JR for the Hall of Fame, and McGillney too. We'll probably come up with a few others. You know what? You may as well put Leclerc in there too. He should be in too with all the goals he had. Nobody had more goals over a 5-year span than John Leclerc, and he should be in the Hall of Fame for that. 5 years out of a league that's 100 and some years old. Sorry, Johnny, you're in the Hall of Fame too. I'll get my list next week of 5 guys not in that should be, and they can consider it.
I love that idea. I think it's great. We'll submit it to the Hall of Fame. By the way, I found the poster. This is the one that was hanging in my room as a kid.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea what happened to that poster. When my parents moved to be closer to us, most of the stuff that was in my childhood room went away, and I have so many regrets because I had like a lot of fun Philadelphia, sports posters. I had pro wrestling posters that like I wish I had kept. They'd be hanging in this office, but yeah, that was the poster. All right, let's get to and this is where things get a little bit interesting. So, we have a lot of people in the comments that that feel like here's another one. Brian Prop. Linda Joseph says things should be in there.
Five finals for Brian Prop. A Flyer Hall of Famer. I mean, his numbers are there. Again, it's a popularity contest.
Yep.
That's who gets in now.
By the way, the thing that you said about the Swedish meatball, like
disrespect to those guys. Just came up with the Swedish meatball. I mean, listen, the Sedins and Daniel Alfredsson were great hockey players. And Daniel Alfredsson is a superhuman being. He lives in Ottawa, great guy.
Yeah.
Just again, it's not disrespectful to say that they should. Somebody wanted them in. They deserve to be in, but not before other guys that absolutely should be in, and that were a major part of this league. So Roenick. For sure, Mogilny. Brian Prop's probably an outside chance. It's been a lot of years, but man, I'll tell you what, you can make a case for a few guys. Someone mentioned Keith Tkachuk. He doesn't have the amount of playoff games and the deep runs in the playoffs that I think you need to do to get there. But again, he's another guy who's scoring 50 goals a year. Johnny Leclerc has a Stanley Cup, prior to his Flyer time in Montreal. So that's why it makes sense. It just, again, I just like doing it by, we always talk about analytics.
Yeah.
Analytics rule the rules. Then if that's the case, use your analytics for your Hall of Fame inductions too.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's guys in there with some great analytical numbers that aren't in, and they had great personalities too. Rise up, get past whatever's going on in your little mind. The fans are going to be fine with JR being in the Hall of Fame. Trust me. No one's going to be upset about it.
Hey, by the way, here's the multiverse for today. I just want people to think about this. So Pashendi says the most destructive move in Flyers history is trading for Lindros. Forsberg was so much better. I just want everybody to think, and like obviously there's no way to have any idea how things would have panned out had you never made the trade. Imagine if you had gotten Peter Forsberg at peak powers, that he develops the same way with the Flyers and spends a decade on this team. Does that change things? Does that fundamentally alter the franchise's outlook? I don't know, but it is fun to think about. I mean, it is crazy that you have a trade that goes down with two players who ultimately, at any given time in their career, were top 2, top 3 players in the league. It doesn't happen very often. It is, and that's why the thought experiment of it, I think, is such like an intriguing thing, and it's why you see so many people go back to it so often. Like, man, what could have been? But like I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. But the thing is that trade was so multifaceted, Russ. Like when you got Lindros in here for that, it became a huge money thing too, right? Just beyond the player for player. So there was Eric was a dynamo. He was, you can't say he wasn't. He was a marketing machine, and the Flyers looked at that. You didn't know what came with that. If you could re-switch the player, you would have. But as I said in my book too, Eric, when he was on his game, was the best player I'd ever seen. He just couldn't do it on a consistent level like other guys, and injuries hampered him as well.
Yeah. Hey, we have to get to something here that I think is gonna. It has nothing to do with the Flyers, but it really took the hockey world by storm the last couple of days. And boy, oh boy, do we have hypocrisy running amok in how it was reported and how people responded to it. And let's get into it. So there was a quasi report put out there by Biz over on Spit and Chicklets about Mike Babcock requiring Boone Jenner to show his phone and the pictures on his phone to Mike Babcock, to the coach in Columbus. And supposedly the thought process was Babcock wanted to know what kind of guy he was, what kind of a leader he was, by looking through the pictures. Now, Biz took it a very interesting way about, why would you want to see pictures of, it really, really took hockey Twitter by storm. It was such a big deal. And, Chicklets, obviously with Barstool, have a big enough platform that when an accusation like that gets made, that an organization and a league and a players association are going to look into it. So Biz says that thing, that Babcock wanted to see Jenner's pictures in his phone, which you can't do. I mean, I would love, and I'm certainly going to give you all the time in the world to speak on this, but like, you can't do that.
No.
To figure out what kind of a leader or good guy or not he was. So Babcock allegedly wanted to see the pictures. So not great. The organization, the Blue Jackets, released a statement saying that it was mischaracterized and that Babcock wanted to see family pictures. And then Jenner had also been part of that statement where he, said that it was he didn't like seeing how it was like blown out of proportion. Gaudreau apparently put out something about it as well. And so the hockey world kind of looked and said, well, that's just Barstool being Barstool. Very interesting note here. Babcock, not a great guy, not a great history, not exactly somebody that you should like want to hold in the highest of regard and give the benefit of the doubt to. Yet there were people who, because they hate Barstool so much, said, well, of course Babcock wouldn't have done that. And then on the flip side, you had people who were like, yo, Babcock sucks. So like, it's entirely possible. So we had this weird dichotomy, and I'm going to take it one step further and then bring you in on it. So the organization makes a statement. Everything seems hunky-dory, except the Players Association did another inquiry. And now there's apparently a bigger investigation because a number of younger players on the team were uncomfortable with the line of questioning and what they were being asked to show or to reveal. Now, I've never been a professional athlete. I cannot imagine being a young guy or a vet and having your coach say, show me your phone, show me the pictures in your phone. Now, I can honestly tell you that I would not be engaging in some of the things that maybe Babcock was afraid that his leaders were engaged in. But again, who the hell are you to say, show me what you got? Where did you fall on this one?
Well, actually, after seeing some of the stuff, I don't know if the players were trying to pull some cover for him or not. Like if someone afterwards said, hey, listen, I didn't mean it, or he tried to backtrack on it. Yeah. You can't ask anybody to see their phone. Like, I mean, at that level, it's like going to a regular business place. Would somebody at a regular business place at a corporation, a boss, say to an employee, hey, I want to see your phone? Yeah. No, you can't look at my phone. That's not within the parameters of the world we live in or the rules probably of the business. So, again, these are things that people had gotten away with for years. And again, I understand. Listen, I understand. People more than most. An organization in sports need to keep an eye on players. Guys do things when they're younger, and you got money, and whether it's drinking and gambling, out in the bars, carousing, doing whatever it is. So I understand that the teams want to have control of that narrative and know what guys are doing. But I think when you do stuff like this, I don't know.
I just think it's weird. I think the whole thing's weird.
It's one thing. Like somebody said,
if you're the coach, and by the way, you can pull it up. You should be able to click on those comments and bring them up. You should have access to. But like, if the idea is you're trying to connect on a human level with your players, and you're like, hey, look, I don't know, hey, what were you up to? If I were your coach, Bundy, and I said, hey, my family, we went to Outer Banks this summer. Like here, I'll show you a picture from where we were in Kill Devil Hills, and like I showed you a picture, and then if that inspired you to be like, oh, you know what, my family and I, we went to Stone Harbor. Yeah, look at this, isn't this cool? Like, look at this lighthouse or something. That's one thing, but to be like, give me your phone so I can see the pictures is weird. There's and I want to get to a bunch of the comments here. I don't know if you have one pulled up that you wanted to
unconfirmed stuff like this one about from is it Pashendi? According to Friedman, Babcock took the family photo of players and put them up on the big screen in front of the whole team in Detroit. That's freak show weird. Yeah, like that's fucking weird. Like if a coach did that, if I came into the room one day and I had like some guy like, here's a picture of Bundy and his kids. Be like, what are you guys doing? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So to me, it's about how the player took this. And if Boone Jenner went in and there was this real sense of odd to it, I'd be like, sorry, dude. Like, I don't know what's going on here. This is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I don't think it sounds like it's just weird.
It's weird.
Just weird. It's just odd.
Hard to say if it's malicious, but it's strange. I want to present both sides here from like people in the comments too. So J Mark says, if my boss asked to see my phone, I'd have some colorful words for him. Michael Hoffman says, wasn't it the same guy who said Mishkov was a bad teammate? Talking of Biz, cough, cough. So, Michael obviously doesn't believe that whatever Biz is putting out there is true. Barry says he has concerns about the situation, but it was reported in such an irresponsible way. Zach thinks that this shows how loud Biz's voice is in the sport. Well, of course, too. He's also on one of the national telecasts, right, as an analyst for TNT, which, by the way, and we'll get back into this, that's another level to this that makes things so much more complicated because I'm Barstool agnostic. There's some content that I think is hilarious. There's some stuff that I don't care. I genuinely don't listen to Chiclets. I don't think it's a bad show. It's not my cup of tea. I like the pizza reviews. I think they're funny. There are certain things that I listen to or watch and I enjoy, and some stuff that I don't. I don't look at an entire outlet and discredit everything because people don't like somebody or they don't like a personality. In the case of Biz, it's hard because that connection to Turner Sports and that connection to the TNT thing puts him in the same kind of like placement as like a Charles Barkley would be talking about the NBA. Barkley, I think in recent years has kind of found that like there are times he has to be careful what he says when he goes on to different shows because what he says, if it's off the cuff, can really blow up in a big way. Biz is a lot newer in terms of, being affiliated with that national entity. And so like the Turner corporate, the Warner Brothers Discovery thing that like, I don't know if he's gotten to that point yet. I also don't know if he's going to change it, but like, that's just something. Andrew says, I think the Babcock situation is being blown out of proportion. Biz tends to over-dramatize things, especially when it comes to Babcock. Michael says it's creepy if only Babcock later uses the family images as a way to dig into them as ammunition for verbally abusing them. I don't know if anybody's accusing him of doing that, but that would certainly be something. Abozo says Gaudreau went on 32 Thoughts and said it was nothing more than a get-to-know-you effort by Babcock. A nothing burger, tend to believe Gaudreau. Other former players said the same thing. So there's just a lot. There's a lot. Here you go. So, Bundy, is this an issue that players would take to the NHLPA to report and file as if they're in HR? Like, could a player get offended by it or think that something's weird and file that to the NHLPA?
Nowadays, yes. Back when I played, I was the one who went back and told a good story to the boys in the locker room and had a good laugh on it.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, you got to get everybody involved. It's a big deal. I don't like that he did that. I don't like that he asked guys for their phone. That's personal information. And, if you did that in a regular corporate world, well, just about anywhere in the corporate world, you'd be fired.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, you can't do that. I mean, that's like a boss asking his employee for, your personal information. You can't do that. But does it make it different because it's hockey? Because it's this coach-player relationship? No, it shouldn't.
And that's where Zillan brings up the interesting point. If a player says no, what, don't they get ice time? Are they worried about things like that? That's a concern. That's real. Yeah, I mean, you would have to assume that if you're not complying with what your coach asks, it puts you in a very weird spot. So, Boba Fett, by the way. It's weird to ask to see someone's pictures. I agree. It's funny because if you think about it, Bundy, how many relationships in this world would be uncomfortable? I mean, there are certainly people who would not be comfortable if their partner, their girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, asks to see the pictures on their phone. Now, I think that that's probably a concern. If you have that concern about your spouse or your partner, there's probably an issue there that you need to resolve or come to some kind of terms with. But that said, that's something like when you start dating someone that probably would not go over very well. Certainly as an employer, you can't do it. So we'll see. And if there are any developments that come from this, we'll certainly talk about them again on next week's show. There you go. There's a power dynamic problem, of course, and felt like Johnny Hockey was just being a company guy, says 13 Captain Price. So that's interesting. The NHLPA is meeting with the NHL today. And Sting Chameleon says, my thoughts are if the young kids did not like it, there's no way Babcock can be behind the bench. Already lost the room. So I don't know. I don't know. This is going to be something that we're going to have to keep an eye on because Babcock's not going to get fired over this. But is it going to increase the scrutiny on a guy who already was on thin ice in this league? Yes. Like the Babcock hire was viewed as something that was a little bit iffy and certainly controversial. So we'll have to see. It's entirely possible that this does prove to be a nothing burger, or it could just be like a typical miscommunication. The vets saw it one way, the younger guys saw it another way. Power dynamics are different. We'll see. Bundy, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we head out today?
No, I don't think so. Camp starts next Thursday. As I said, we'll probably, hopefully in the next week or so, have another major announcement. Maybe the biggest announcement. Maybe I'm going to go Russ. Maybe the biggest announcement Snow The Goalie will have ever had.
Oh, boy.
Maybe, just maybe. Hey, Russ,
who's
I sound
say?
like you? Summer Russ, I sound like right now.
Who's to say? Oh, no. I just don't want it to feel like it's overhyped and then have people be upset again. Although I can say that it will not be overhyped. I'll give people a little bit of a clue. As we expand our coverage, something that people used to really love that we haven't done for a couple of years is going to be coming back. And I think the people are going to really enjoy that being back because I think it's going to be better than ever. I'll just say that. That's my last little tease on this one for today. So
just keep getting your Flyers news here and nowhere else, because we promise you, we will give you nothing but the truth. Always.
All right, hold on. I just got a very interesting text. Okay. There might be something developing.
Developing with what?
I just want to see.
Okay. Ronick in the Hall of Fame?
No, there might be. I want to be very careful. I'm going to try to send a message back here. Some of the players who are in camp might not be in camp for much longer.
What camp? Flyer camp?
Or not. Who knows? I don't know. Flyers camp? Blue Jackets camp? Maple Leafs camp? Who knows? Who knows? Who's to say? I can't dive into it. I'm just saying. We'll have to see. All I'll say is keep an eye on the Snow The Goalie Twitter account and social media channels, and Anthony at SanFilippo and Bundy at Therien6 and me at Joy on Broad. We'll see. There could be some things in the pipeline with this team. That's all I can say. You and I will talk about it after we're done going live here.
Russ, is this like, okay, you know what? I know we're talking about it. Are we live right here? Are we depriving or depraving our fans of breaking news? Are we allowed to put it? Is it something that we are very careful sometimes when stuff comes out that we don't get ourselves in any legal
I don't want to burn it. I don't want to burn anybody by talking about it.
Okay.
I would just say that the roster as it currently stands right now is being evaluated on a number of levels, and that perhaps there could be some movement at some point. Who knows? Who's to say? We'll see. Okay. All right. I hate doing that. I really do. But hey, we've now discussed it at the end of a show.
I'm as in the dark as Francis Izzo is right now. Come on now.
Listen, I promise you that if and when something happens, we will come back. And if it's a big thing, we'll do an emergency pod. And if it's not a big thing, it'll just be part of next week's episode.
Okay.
Bundy, let's just remind the people really quickly that next week, Flyers camp opens, official training camp opens. We intend on having a presence at camp in some way, shape, or form. I think you said you're going to be going down to camp at some point. I think I'll probably make it down there a day. I know Anthony plans on being down there at some point as well. I think it's going to be a very interesting season, and I think it's going to be a very interesting season for our show. And so with that, a big thank you to everybody who joined us live on the YouTube stream.
Russ, real quick, too, I have a speaking engagement in Westchester University next week.
This is the one that we talked about last week, and how like it would be better if they found Cavalcante by then. So go ahead, plug.
They did, yes. I'm doing it with Deborah Ryan. She's the DA of Chester County. So the 19th, which is a Tuesday night, 7 till 8:30 in the big auditorium at Westchester University. I'll be doing a seminar on basically my story, but also and how it entails to like law, crime and punishment, stuff like that. So we're going to have like law students and the entire, I believe, Westchester student athlete we'll fill it up to hear some great stories. We'll have a multitude of speakers. 7 till 8:30. I'll post it. You can get tickets if you want to come out. They're cheap.
That's great.
Thank you.
There you go. So go out and listen to Bundy. And if you go to Westchester, make sure you go up to him after, ask for a picture, tell him you listen to Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast.
I'm always available for pictures or an autograph. Come on out and say that.
That's what it's all about.
Yep.
I have a feeling that people are going to be able to find you this year.
If they want to find a pretty good feeling they're going to be able to find me too. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that's it. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody who checked in. And by the way, this is a great guess, but not correct. 13 Captain Price says, I hope it's Know the Goalie. The thing about what we used to do. I don't remember if we did this when you were on the show. This was like pandemic era. I used to do a segment with Anthony called Know the Goalie, and I would give him a bunch of random facts about a former Flyers goalie, and he'd have to guess who it was. And I more often than not, stumped him, but there were a few times that he got it right. I wouldn't be opposed to doing that every once in a while. I still have the audio drop for it, so maybe we'll bring it back at some point. Anyway, a big thank you to everybody who checked in live, and we will be back next week with another Snow the Goalie. So thank you for listening, or maybe even watching Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast. Find us wherever you get your podcast apps. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We want to get to 2,000 before the start of the season. And then make sure when you watch the episode, you give the thumbs up. Click the thumbs up, hit the bell, ring the bell so that you don't miss an episode in the future. So for Bundy, at Therien6, for Anthony SanFilippo, wherever he is, at AntSanPhilly, I'm Russ, at Joy on Broad. Thanks again for listening, maybe even watching Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast. Talk to you next week.